right here on Fridays at noon, talkradio.nyc.
Have you ever thought of reinventing yourself? Are you looking to create a new life's journey? Hi, I'm Kevin Barbaro, host of Coffee Talk XL every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc. Tune in live to hear me and my guests from a variety of different backgrounds. As a former college coach and a current full-time actor and owner of multiple companies, my show is as eclectic as my life. That's Coffee Talk XL every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Do you feel uninformed about menopause and how it impacts on your life? Hi, I'm Pat Duckworth, women's health strategist and host of the Hot Women Rock radio show, empowering women leaders at menopause. Join me every Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. UK time on talkradio.nyc for interviews with inspirational women who will share their top tips to rock your world.
In a post-COVID world, you may have many unanswered questions regarding your health. Are you looking to live a healthier lifestyle? Do you have a desire to learn more about mental health and enhance your quality of life? Or do you just want to participate in self-understanding and awareness? I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each Thursday, I will tackle these questions and work to enlighten you. Tune in every Thursday at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will be Frank About Health to advocate for all of us.
Howdy, I am Joseph Franklin McElroy, host of the new podcast, Gateway to the Smokies. It airs on talkradio.nyc every Tuesday night from 6 p.m. to 7. Every episode is dedicated to memorable experiences in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park and surrounding areas. This show features experts and locals who expound upon the richness of culture, history, and adventure that awaits you in the Smokies. Tune in every Tuesday from 6 p.m. to 7 on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Howdy, thanks for joining us on this week's episode of Wise Content Creates Wealth. You've heard that content is king. Well, wise content rules the world. Wise content is data intelligence driven storytelling content created for promotional purposes. It is the heart of modern marketing, and without it, digital marketers will fall behind their competition, lose connectivity with their customers, and ultimately fail at being profitable. I'm Joseph Franklin McElroy, and I'm a marketing technology expert. I'm also an award-winning content producer who can create incredibly detailed, high-quality articles and blogs and videos and podcasts, things like that. Additionally, I lead content teams that produce thousands of pieces of content monthly for Fortune 500 companies. My company is Galileotech Media, which executes on creating wise content and marketing campaigns. Galileo was created out of a desire to get away from the drudgery of daily marketing by creating content that we sent out in the world to find an audience and bring back sales and leads for months and sometimes years. And of course, artificial intelligence is part of that vision of alleviating that drudgery. So today we're going to ask the question, can artificial intelligence solve your content pain? But first, a little story. You know, we're talking about artificial intelligence creating content, and that's a revolutionary thought. And you know, in terms of content and production and productivity. And there was a time when other technologies were doing that. There's always somebody who hates the new technology because it somehow undermines the way things are. And there's people out there now talking about, how this AI content is not a good thing yet. But, I think it's important to keep this story in mind, that there was a Luddite back in the 15th century, all right, who was an abbot. His name was Johannes Trithemius. I don't know. I don't say it. I just found him, so I haven't figured out how to say it yet. But who was no fan of the printing press, all right, because of what it was going to do to poor monks. It wasn't just that it would put them out of work; that it would impact their souls. He was worried that the printed presses would make monks lazy, right? And his opinion, writing and making manuscripts was a built character, and it was akin to chopping wood. And so labor was part and parcel of the devotion of making the Christian text. And if you weren't good at writing, well, then you could do binding or painting, or just for heaven's sakes, practice. And it was something that monks had to do, because there was nothing more dangerous for the devout soul than idleness. And then he also believed that printed books were anything to get bothered about. The paper wasn't as permanent as parchment. And there wasn't that many books in print. They were going to be hard to find, and they were ugly, and they were constrained by the type. So it was just like he basically, the quote he had was that he who ceases from zeal for writing because of printing is no true lover of the scriptures. You're going to go to hell. Of course, the printing press created large changes in Christianity and medieval Europe. It began solidifying the authority of the Christian authority over society, which was maybe a good thing, maybe not so good, and went on to become a stepping stone for the Protestant Reformation. If Martin Luther's ideas and Bible hadn't got out there, there might not be, Protestant religions, evangelical religion. So it was a revolution in content production, changed society dramatically. So I'm going to talk to somebody that's got involved in the AI game and content producing. His name is Bruce Amick. He's a friend of mine. He's co-founder and COO of Places Dot, which combines human talent and AI to produce content solutions. Bruce has 30 plus years of experience building and implementing secure and efficient projects for private and public sector enterprises. So, hi, Bruce, how are you doing today?
Pretty good, living the dream.
You're living the dream, right? Yeah.
Living the dream. Love that story about the evils of the printing press turning into the force that spread Christianity throughout the savage, untamed world. Love that, Joseph.
There's actually people that are writing books right now that don't like the whole idea of the content, direction of content and AI production. I think there's a guy named Nick Carr or Andrew Keene that have written some books that are against it. But there's always going to be the Luddites that want to stand in the way of that. So, how did your career start from building solutions for Broadway ticket sales to leading this AI content revolution?
Well, it's an interesting journey. I was involved with Broadway's leap to the internet back in 2000, led a company called Broadway.com. And at that point, the biggest concerns about content was the images and the, being able to provide engaging content. Not a whole lot of thought was put into the writing and what was actually being written. And image copyrights were difficult to come by, and you need to get permission from the shows, you need to get permission from actors, and et cetera, et cetera. And that was the biggest content pain of that time. And as far as search and discovery, well, you had a great URL, and that was pretty much the full strategy, and you just advertised the daylights out of it. That was a long time ago, though, and things have changed quite a bit. I've focused quite a bit on distributing Broadway product through travel agencies, OTAs, through tour operators. And in that case, we were focused more on the connectivity and the APIs. And then this, about a year ago, I started on a project, and Joseph, I kind of roped you into it as well, of revitalizing a travel site. And one of the things that became readily apparent was if we didn't update the content rapidly and at a pace that matched its previous owners of that site, we were just going to continue to drop in the rankings on the search engine result pages. And getting the strategy in place for what type of content and how frequently to put it and what should be in that content was a whole exercise in itself and kind of painful. But then actually getting the content written was
Yeah, right.
Right. Finding authors, getting the price agreement, putting the calendar together, having them do their drafts, sending the drafts back to them, all of that, just turned into a really, really difficult process. This last summer, in starting Places, we needed to set up activity marketplaces in a couple of cities that would have thousands of events in them for hundreds and hundreds of venues. And we needed to fill up those pages with SEO-friendly content so that people could discover these things to do. And that process was a little bit daunting at first because there's just no supply of descriptions. And we started to play around with AI to write the descriptions for the events, the descriptions for the venues. And that's when we really discovered that there was a really strong use case, an argument for using AI to help propagate pages that would otherwise take 10 times longer to create. And cost is obviously another factor. But,
right.
We were able to stand up 1,500 pages in less than 2 weeks. It was indexed in 13 days by Google after publishing. We started ranking in position 1 for some of those pages. So it was really just a light bulb went off, and it was a 1,000-watt light bulb.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, what I'm going to ask you a question. This is sort of a little bit technical, but back in the day, I actually in the '80s it was at Duke, and I studied. My major was computer science, and my approach was my theme was AI. All right, and what we used to do for AI back then was what was, I guess, called alpha beta search, right? It's you didn't have the tremendous computer systems that you have now, right? So you had to create, you didn't have machine learning, right? That could go out there and learn things. So we had to basically, you could go certain levels down. Say you were designing a game, right? And you wanted to play a game. It could go several levels down, say 10 levels down from a move that you might make, right? And then it could imagine a bunch of other moves that could be made. And it could create a tree upon those successes. And then it would do for every other possible move that could be done on the board. It could create a tree of what would the results be. And then you'd have to come up with a scoring algorithm that at the end of the tree that said, how likely was this path going to be to being a winning success, right? And, so that was what AI was essentially there. What do you think AI is now?
Well, still it is machine learning. We really need to just, I don't like the term artificial intelligence that much because it seems to indicate, human-like characteristics, and there really aren't. It's machine learning. It is, there are limitations on it, but it is certainly far more powerful than it was in the '80s.
Yeah.
Just saying. A couple of things have changed.
Yeah. Hey, I can't say I won the championship Pente program play.
But
Yeah.
yeah, you know, it's what's most important about AI is how you set it up, how you instruct it. What are you trying to find? What is your intent? Is your intent to, you know, a lot of people use AI now for decision making and for, you know, trying to get the you know, either the best advertising message or advertising placement. AI is obviously all over the place with digital advertising and how it is placed, you know, within microseconds on a site that you're loading based on bidding and based on meeting certain metrics. But to use it to actually create something instead of to, you know, make good decisions about something is what is probably the most revolutionary change that's happened.
It's important too, you know, you said that they're getting the right message. I saw some research not too long ago that was that, you know, in terms of marketing, if you get the message right on the first message you send to a client, you have like an 80% improvement over the lifetime of that client of getting, or a prospect of getting a conversion. Getting that first, you know, a lot of people just send out messages to get one that works, but you know, getting the first one right dramatically improves your revenue and your opportunity success. So, you know, it's important. So anyway, when we come back, I want to continue our conversation on the role of artificial intelligence in content marketing.
Great. Looking forward to it.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant. And on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you on edge? Hey, we live in challenging, edgy times, so let's lean in. I'm Sandra Bargman, the host of The Edge of Every Day, which airs each Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc. Tune in live with me and my friends and colleagues as we share stories and perspectives about pushing boundaries and exploring our rough edges. That's The Edge of Every Day on Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Hello, this is Joseph Franklin McElroy, back with the Wise Content Creates Wealth podcast, and my guest, Bruce Amick. So, Bruce, you know, you guys are getting in this game of content AI, and what do you think AI or artificial intelligence, or whatever you want to call it, what's the role it can play in content marketing?
Well, I think that there's a couple of roles that it can play. I think it has been, you know, playing a role of deciding, you know, what sort of captions or headlines, titles, subjects, and ever to put into emails, to put into display ads. I've seen some innovation in actually putting together short video reels using AI to determine either the sequence or the images chosen or the text that goes over it. A lot of effort has been put into trafficking with AI, using AI to monitor how your advertising and your messages are trafficked out into the world of the web or the world of Facebook and Instagram and things of that nature. Where we're seeing just a very, very new breakthrough is in using AI to help create long form SEO friendly content that helps you get discovered. I think that you're kind of at a place now with the consumers they're tired of ads and the death of the cookie, although it didn't happen quite the way that people thought it was going to happen, but it's still dying, and Apple is doing a really good job of making it harder and harder for people to track devices. So all of that makes content far more important, real, actual relevant content. People are using search to get answers. And they want answers either about your company or about the type of product that you serve, or in our cases about destinations or about concerts or shows or museums and things that they have questions. And AI can help in two ways. It can help to parse the analytics from the search side of things, but it can also help to create content that then becomes the basis of what's on your site and what gets discovered.
So so it basically uses machine learning to go out and see what made successful content before and what you're talking about, and then we'll pull in information and rewrite it, or how does it work?
No, I mean, that is one way that there's a couple of companies that are focusing on rewrites and paraphrasing. And, there's certainly a huge value proposition in that, because, you need to have unique content or you get the penalization. So, but you may have multiple channels that you're distributing the same content through. You may have 6 different websites and brands, and you may be having affiliates that you want this content. You have a press release that wants to go out, and you don't want to constantly be using the exact same block of text, because it will begin to be ignored. So there are companies that focus on rewrite. We do that, but where we think that there's a breakthrough, and this is really, really very recent, I mean, within months, is the capability for certain AI engines and libraries with proper instruction from, we actually have a content scientist that can create text, can create, a story, can create an article, and have, the facts covered, the questions and answers covered, but also descriptive, change of voice. You can actually train to mimic a style of a certain writer. It takes about 100 articles to do that. But obviously that can be parsed in a matter of hours. And so that is where I think there's a real game change there. And the amount of content on the web in the last year has almost doubled. And it's just billions and billions and billions of pages. And people don't, you're going to get lost. Your company is going to get lost if you're not producing content that is relevant to what people are looking for. And in order for it to be found, it has to have some structure. There's some technical aspects, but it also has to be written to address the things that people are looking for.
So, there's There is a funnel in content marketing, right? You have a sale, the people have awareness of a problem. They, then they start doing research on, how they might solve the problem. Then they get into deciding who to buy from, and then they make the negotiation of buying, and then they express satisfaction afterwards. And all that involves content, having content. Where is AI really good at, and where is it still not great at?
So where it's not great at is if you have a product that's brand new, but there's nothing that is written about it anywhere else. And so you'll have to spend a lot of time building up sort of a fact library and descriptive library for that beforehand, because AI is going to go out and look at, some of these different AI engines use libraries that one of them has 175 billion data points. Another one has about 50 billion data points, but it's existing data that's out there, right? So we're writing content for a show, a Broadway show that hadn't done performances yet. And so there was very little that was out there that was written about that particular show. And the first couple of rounds that AI came back with were just, it was making stuff up. It was making up the plot of the story. It was making up, and it just did not match. And we, realized there wasn't enough information out there for AI to just on its own write accurate copy. And this is where I think a lot of people don't quite understand how to implement AI. Is it? I think there's this expectation. Great, we'll just plug in this machine and it's going to generate the content for us. We can sit back and focus on counting our coins and looking at the traffic rise. You really have to have a human involved. There has to be somebody who looks this over and makes sure that the robot wasn't drinking, as we like to put it.
Well, one of the things that I find also important in content is behavioral science. If you see my proposition about what wise content is, not just artificial intelligence, but behavioral science. For example, in travel writing, I use an academic study called memorable tourism experiences, which has developed emotional scale, and has found that anticipation of a memorable experience really helps build and make that a more intense experience. And then the memorable experience creates revisited intention and brand loyalty. So that's the reason I do it. But when I started doing it in SEO, I found out that if I applied this emotional language to like the title tags and the meta descriptions, and then even the content itself, I got a much more engagement rates and much more click-through rates. So it's very successful. Do you think that AI is able to integrate behavioral science into producing its content, or is it going to discover that through the patterns but not really understand it?
No, I actually do very strongly believe that it's able to add behavioral science into, and we're actually playing with that right now. We, in our tool, we are scoring whether things, if there's an emotional bias in a particular title or a paragraph, or things are leading off, because we want to be able to match the tone of our clients and for the content that we're creating, or match the tone of the venue or the destination. So sometimes you want a little sarcasm in there. Sometimes you don't want to be all happy, fun memories, but it's still important to make sure that you can titrate that in the writing. And yes, it is possible. To answer your question, it is definitely possible.
It just takes going back to algorithms then again, really. How do you?
It's algorithms, it's feeding data, and it's, you really do have to train. You have to train the robot. It's not going to figure it out on its own.
Now I heard somebody told me that if you train it, If you train a robot not at all, or if you train it with too much, you're liable to get duplicate content. Is that true?
You would if you didn't put an instruction not to generate duplicate content, right?
Okay.
So it's
so it's one of the fundamental whatever Isaac Asimov's commandments to there's 3 commandments to robots. Add on to that: do not create duplicate content. Do not kill people. Do not create the duplicate content. Well, let's take a break, and we'll come back and we'll talk more about AI and talk about your company.
Great, thank you.
I am Joseph Franklin McElroy, host of the new podcast, Gateway to the Smokies. It airs on talkradio.nyc every Tuesday night from 6 p.m. to 7. Every episode is dedicated to memorable experiences in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park and surrounding areas. This show features experts and locals who will expound upon the richness of culture, history, and adventure that awaits you in the Smokies. Tune in every Tuesday from 6 p.m. to 7 on talkradio.nyc.
Are you passionate about the conversation around racism? Hi, I'm Reverend Dr. TLC, host of the Dismantle Racism Show, which airs every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc. Join me and my amazing guests as we discuss ways to uncover, dismantle, and eradicate racism. That's Thursdays at 11 o'clock a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a small business trying to navigate the COVID-19 related employment laws? Hello, I'm Eric Sauver, employment law, business law attorney, and host of the new radio show, Employment Law Today. On my show, we'll have guests to discuss the common employment law challenges business owners are facing during these trying times. Tune in on Tuesday evenings from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc, now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Hello, this is Joseph Franklin McElroy back with the Wise Content Creates Wealth podcast with my guest Bruce Amick. And even though I've been doing this for a year, I still forget to unmute sometimes. And we're talking about AI. But Bruce, I wanted to you've got this company, Places Dot. Which it's a new company for me and you, and I want to find out more. But what's your 30-second pitch to investors?
I have been responding to that question with, I have an elevator pitch, but it has to be for a very high building because I'm going to need more than 30 seconds. Well, so Places, we originally started out as being able to create marketplaces that would be white label marketplaces. So if a hotel or a convention visitor bureau or a publisher wanted a things to do, what can I do in this area? What can I do near my hotel? What can I, do? They would be our site would be hosted under their domain and branded with whatever their brand identity is, would provide those thousands and thousands of listings. We have APIs that connect to various ticketing systems and other sources of event data, and then obviously we create content with AI, and so we have a very rich marketplace for the different clients that we serve. We have a couple of clients on the West Coast that are publishers that focus on the performing arts, and that was the main focus of our company. But once we found out how self-plug here, how awesome our AI tool was, we began to realize that that was probably going to be a better contributor to the world that we were looking at and the bottom line of our company. So we are playing around with some brand name changes for our company, and we'll get back to you on that in a little bit. But for now, Places focuses on things to do, places to visit, and we provide content for people that are interested in consuming that.
And you provide the content. So you use your technology to create the content, get humans that will make sure it's good content. And then what do you sell? Anything besides content otherwise, like process, management?
Well, we have a process. Everybody has their own content workflow, so we don't want to impose upon. What we generally do in an engagement with a customer is start by providing content and then look at the intersection points, both on determining the content schedule and getting articles assigned or updates assigned, and how does that flow to us, what works best for them, and then how piping it back into their content management system. Some people do not want it automatically piped in because it's got to go through editorial and through legal and et cetera, et cetera. So they don't want it automatically going into their CMS. But others are, God, please do it for us. Please put it in there. And generally what we like to do is say, let's do a test project first so that we can figure out where to connect all the pipes. And the result of that is that you're still getting product, you're still getting content and addressing that pain point while you're also onboarding essentially your new content process.
One of the, I of course have been involved a lot in travel content. A couple of the pain points before you can get to the writing of content is one is what keywords do you actually target? And then what are the topics? Companies have a real hard time with that when you're doing SEO content at scale.
Right.
What are the topics, that you're going to write about? What are the keywords you're focusing on? Do you guys help with that?
Yes. Yeah, we do. We offer as a service, it's built into our tool. We have a keyword analyzer in our tool, and then that keyword analyzer will then bring back prompts for writing the content articles. And we'll also suggest topics as well. So the AI is suggesting topics and helping with the content calendar and all of that. Not everybody wants that. Some people have an SEO team that's in place and they love that SEO team, and the SEO team, their only problem is they can't get enough content.
And then they also have social media teams, they have all PR teams, they have all sorts of people in there. So it's like, getting through all that was, hey, listen, I've been playing around with AI, right, and working with it. And one of the things I've done real successfully is generate a content plan with all the keywords, come up like 100 pages to support a concept,
right,
organized with 10 keywords to each page, blah, blah, blah. And I can do that now in like 5 minutes, right?
Right.
But if some people you hand it off to, and it's like you're a savior. Other people, like you just see fear go across their face because now they would have to take that through so many different people that would.
Right. Yeah, we had a meeting like that yesterday, actually, where the client said, okay, here's the problem. I've got 3 different divisions. They all have their own ideas of what's got to happen. So I've got to figure out how I can sell this to them. And I said, well, all right, let us know how we can help.
So you got your technology product, how are you going to get a lot of customers?
Well, we actually kind of started with a list. Once we realized that we had the capability to generate content quickly, and that it was relevant, that it ranked, and that we could sort of have a bit of an assembly line going. We looked at companies that we have relationships with, because my co-founders and I, we've been in business for maybe not under this company, but under different companies for, I'm the longest with 40 years of leading companies and 30 very focused on technology. Marina's, she was global VP of WPP for digital. We have a lot of connections. So we just made a list of about 300 companies that we felt would probably need to be generating more than 500 or 600 pieces of content per year, and started approaching them. And it was honestly, first call, they're interested.
What if a company's listening and they have different pain points? What is the pain point that they should say, I need to call you guys?
Well, I think that there's two. I'm going to say there's two pain points. The first one is they know that they have to generate content. They have their SEO plan, but they just cannot generate it fast enough, and it's too expensive. So they should definitely call us, because we're essentially a service that hands them the content ready for them to consume, but can also turn into a subscription service for them. And we can go into that later. If you know that content will help you, but you don't have a plan and you don't have SEO, then you should call us, because we can get you, from the, oh my God, what do I do stage to here's what I do. And I gotta say, it is so more cost effective than trying to set up a new digital ad campaign.
Right.
And you can really measure the results. None of this, I know that half of my advertising is wasted, but I just don't know which half. With content, you know what's working, you can tweak it, and it's just, sorry. So I'm preaching to the choir here. I'm preaching to the preacher.
I know. What is your revenue model? How are you going to make money with this?
Well, a couple of ways. One is on the SEO services. Obviously there's agency type of fees that are involved there. We also, but the main focus is on both the content that is being delivered during that initial project phase. And if somebody doesn't want to go to a subscription where they're users on our platform, then that content is, with margin, and it's delivered 5 times at least faster than any other content services that you've been using, and it's at least half as expensive. So it's nicely priced. It's definitely good. But then once they're on the platform and they're pulling the levers themselves, then it would be a subscription model. So,
besides businesses out there, we also have people that are content creators listening. How will AI, help content creators produce better content? And what should they be worried?
I think they shouldn't be worried, because honestly, there is so much that requires the human experience, intent, the human expertise, subject matter expertise. I think what ends up happening with these AI tools, a lot of them are pitched as their main value proposition is they're a cure for writer's block. So you're sitting there in front, you just don't know what to write. That is one thing, but I guess think about, back to your story before, did the printing press really ruin the authorship of books? It didn't. Did the typewriter ruin the authorship of books? It didn't. Did the word processor ruin the authorship of books? It didn't. This is a way to help you create better content. It's a really good New York Times article. This came out in November, where I guess you call him a reporter, right?
They're a content producer.
he wrote, right, you don't call him a content producer, call him a reporter. He was writing a book review on a book on AI that was written by Henry Kissinger, Eric Schmidt, and somebody else. So like three like giants of technology and whatever. I don't know why Henry Kissinger was in there, but he was. And he ended up using AI to help him write the review. It was very meta and not in the Zuckerberg fashion. So I really feel that this is, it's like going from whiteout to a word processor, right?
Right.
It should help people that are serious about this to be able to generate more content and spend and have it all be high quality and be worth the money that they're getting paid for it.
Okay, there you
Not that
have
it isn't now. Sorry, that was not a judgment call.
So there you have it. The content producers out there, you're going to be safe, so don't be Luddites. So when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about ethical and legal considerations of this industry. And then finish up with.
Join us every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern for the Mind Behind Leadership, where we focus on what leadership really means to us and to others. We have practical discussions with the CEOs of some of the world's largest companies, owners of small businesses, and experts in psychology and behavior to get that inside track, what to do, what to avoid, and what really happens. Join me, Graham Dobbin, at the new time, 4 p.m. every Tuesday for the Mind Behind Leadership, here live on talkradio.nyc.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Calling all pet lovers.
Pet Avengers, assemble!
On the Professionals and Animal Lovers show, we believe the bond between animal lovers is incredibly strong. It mirrors that bond between pets and their owners. Through this program, we come together to learn, educate, and advocate.
Join us live every Wednesday at 2 p.m. at talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Hello, this is Joseph Franklin McElroy, back with the Wise Content Creates Wealth podcast with my guest, Bruce Amick. So, Bruce, we're talking about AI. As with all sort of new endeavors, there's ethical considerations. What are the ethical considerations that should be taken into account when using AI in content?
Well, I think that there are some, I'm not going to say invalid concerns, but some concerns that are maybe more valid than others. I think the Terminator scenario where robots are out to kill humanity, while I'm not going to say that never ever could happen, I don't really think that that is a near horizon kind of issue. And I think that let's think about some other things that are a little bit more close on the horizon that are problematic. Some of that is the misinformation that gets propagated on social media channels and on the web, and that could very easily be augmented by AI, and that is a concern. I think that's a concern for the creators of these AI engines, It's a concern of anyone who has a business that's associated with AI, that you don't want to be, tarred with that same brush, as it were. It is a valid concern, and there should be ways to restrict that from happening. And I don't think that they're necessarily built into the AI software. I think they're more something that is on the platforms themselves. And this is, this is something that we're struggling with, AI or not, is how do platforms, regulate the content of the contributors? And should they? How much should they? Obviously the Spotify argument with Neil Young versus Joe Rogan is out there, but it's there's some valid things. I mean, elections and health concerns, all sorts of things.
How about bias as well? I mean, isn't there a problem that we have to deal with the bias as well?
Well, so the AI is creating based on instructions. It's creating content based on instructions and training. So, just as if the writer can have bias, the AI can learn a bias as well. But I don't see in the very near future at all AI having intentions. Right? So it's the robots aren't planning to take over.
Well, it's
pretty sure.
The data, right? It's the data, whatever data, garbage in, garbage out, right?
Well, sure. It's the data. It's the training as well. I mean, what are you training? And again, we very firmly believe in a number of the best-in-class AI companies are similarly inclined. There has to be a human involved. There has to be a human, someone looking at the content and double checking it, or the training part, but there really should be a human involved. It should not go right from machine to website, right from machine to Instagram, right from machine to Facebook. It's not when you're talking about long form content. Perhaps when it's just an ad and with the title line in front of it, that's one thing.
So,
but yeah.
Also a good thing that I wonder about is what happens to copyright in the AI created content world?
Well, my prediction, it will make many lawyers rich figuring it out.
Well, there's already been things like this. When there's some sort of monkey story of taking a picture and who owns the copyright?
Yes, the monkey selfie case, the monkey selfie lawsuit is used as a parallel when talking about AI. And the monkey selfie lawsuit was this photographer set up his equipment in a game refuge where there were these types of, and they're not monkeys, they're gibbons or something, I don't remember exactly what, so that they could take pictures themselves, right? And then he published those pictures, and he was arguing that he had the copyright because it was his equipment. He was the one who set it up in place, and PETA, that nonprofit organization that advocates for animals, said no, the monkeys own the copyright. So in various countries, this is something. So
and they won in several countries, right? Yeah.
Well, so Germany, I may botch this, so any lawyers listening, there's a disclaimer somewhere.
So, yeah.
But some countries say that there has to be a human involved. If there isn't a human involved, then there is no copyright. Copyright can only be given to a person. And then some countries recognize that a person was involved in setting up whatever it was that ended up creating the content. It's not resolved around the world, and it is certainly not resolved in the U.S.
Because it's true, yeah. I mean, it's a big question. Like if you put up content that's totally by an AI, you might not own it.
You might not.
Yeah.
Well, it may be just free. So anyway, there's a lot of debate about this right now, and it's another reason why for our product we have people involved. Make sure that we have 3 sets of eyes that look over every piece of content before it goes out.
So where can people follow you, get in contact with you if they're interested in things that you have to say or what you're doing? What should they do?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn. We have our own website, placesdot.com.
So it's placesdot.com,
yeah, placesdot.com. And that's pretty much it. I'm not a big social guy. I'm more of a B2B kind of person, but that's where you can find us.
Are you guys producing any thought leadership articles and things like that?
Yes, we are. We have it's a classic case of the carpenter's kids have no shoes, right? We have a content calendar in place, and we are generating blog articles, but everybody else's work gets done before ours gets done. So,
but you can do it 5 times faster, right?
We can do it 5 times faster, and so our clients so far have been saying more. Everybody is renewing and say, we asked one client, how many should we go for? They said, well, if you're doing 100 a day, we think that's probably good.
Oh, there you go. Good. Wow. So, thank you for being on this show, Bruce. It's been a pleasure.
It's my pleasure, Joseph. I really enjoy you. You're one of the smartest people I've ever met. So I really enjoy talking with you at any time. I wish we could do this at a lunch place in Manhattan, but that will happen at some point.
This is the Wise Content Creates Wealth podcast. We have a site called wisecontentcreateswealth.com where you can find the episodes of previous episodes and a newsletter you can sign up to. My company is Galileotechmedia.com if you're interested in content, wise content, production services, SEO, and content marketing. I am part of the talkradio.nyc network with this podcast. And that is a network of a lot of live podcasts happening every day. I recommend you listen. It goes from self-help to business to small business to wellness to just exploring interesting topics that you would enjoy. So please stick around and find out more about what you can watch on this network. It's a great pleasure. I'm on social media. You can go to basically just use Joseph McElroy as the username on just about every piece of social media because I joined everything first. And use Joseph McElroy as the name, and you'll usually find me on whatever social media there is. I'm playing with TikTok now. So anyway, it's been enjoyable, and see you next week at the same time from noon until 1 every Friday with Wise Content Creates Wealth podcast. See you later, Bruce.
Thank you, Joseph, for having me.